Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to this early Philadelphia Eagles Week 9 preview against the Houston Texans. And if you're new to the Hardcore Sports Network, do us a favor, hit the like button and subscribe to the Hardcore Sports Network. Also do the same over on my main channel, Nicky Stee's channel. Quickest way to get there is go there, type in Nicky Stee's in your YouTube search. It'll be the first channel that comes up. Mitch, thank you for coming on. Thank you for promoting this show here. Everything is good right now, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Philadelphia Eagles and the Houston Texans Thursday night matchup on the road. Before against that, just a little fun fact. Eagles all-time are 5-0 against the Houston Texans. We are looking to make it 6-0. We should be the favorites. Now, this one I'm going to go a little bit more. This time around, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the teams, compare and contrast, and I'm going to give the keys to victory at the end, make that a little bit brief. So I'm going to spend more time giving an overview of the matchup in this weekly preview episode. So let's just get right into it. So obviously we're 7-0 coming to this game. Houston Texans are 1-5-1. They are doo-doo. And we expected them to be doo-doo. We had this on going into the season as an easy winnable matchup, even before we saw how good this Eagles team was. And now that we've reached that point, we're one day away from the game, it's looking like an easy cakewalk win to 8-0 at this point. But let's take a look a little bit at the Houston Texans so far. So they're 1-5-1 off a soft schedule. Because I pulled up, so I'm right now on my computer, I got up the Houston Texans schedule right now. So take a look. Week 1, they tied the Colts 20-20, a garbage Colts team with washed up Matt Ryan. Week 2, they lost 16-9 to Broncos with washed Russ Wilson. Week 3, they lost on a last-second field goal to the Bears at Soldier Field, 23-20, against a struggling Justin Fields and a rebuilding Bears team. Then you get to Week 4, they lost 34-24 to the Chargers. And some people will say, oh, okay, they looking competitive. Yeah, against what opposition? They looking competitive against thus far, huh? Exactly. And the Chargers, the reason that was close, because we know the Chargers throughout the years had a tendency to fall apart in the fourth quarter. And their one win Week 5 against the Jaguars, 13-6, against a rebuilding Jaguars team in a similar situation as them. Then their last 2 games, Week 7, lost to the Raiders, 38-20. And then they lost 17-10 to the Tennessee Titans last week. But let's face it, out of everything we saw right there, we saw, they was putting up some close games against garbage competition. I mean, there's a lot of different words I could have came up with to describe the Texans, but I decided to keep it at that. And like I said, yeah, the Texans, obviously, you just know that. I just went through the record. If you was paying attention, yeah, they was close in some of those games, but against garbage teams. Now they got to play against their best team thus far in the Philadelphia Eagles. This should be a blowout on paper. We should go in there and wipe the floor with the Houston Texans on paper. I mean, you got Davis Mills as their starting quarterback, who he ain't looking too hot this year. But then again, to be fair with how bad the Texans are and how screwed up they were after Bill O'Brien ran everything into the ground, in order for that team to have a remote chance at winning, they would have to have Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen as their QB just to have a remote chance. So I'm not going to be too hard on Bill Burr. I mean, I mean, Davis Mills. But yeah, but even with Davis Mills, it's not looking too good, which to be fair, not too many quarterbacks could have a chance with that current rosters. But let's take a look a little more in depth. So the Texans so far, they have only 3 takeaways thus far. Yes, 3 takeaways this whole season. That's it. Versus the Eagles, who have had a total of 14 takeaways. And the Eagles have done it against better competition, such as the Dallas Cowboys and Minnesota Vikings. Both teams are better than anyone that the Texans have played to date. And yet the Eagles were still able to get some takeaways against those teams and look dominant doing it. Well, the Houston Texans against garbage competition has only had 3 takeaways. And yes, I'm going to be coming on here, talking this and that. I'm not afraid to eat my words if the unlikely upset does happen. I'm not afraid to do that. So yes, I'm going to come on here and talk about that. And if it does happen, I'll come on here and own up to it afterward. It's unlikely, but if it does happen, I'll own up to it. As I was saying, we look at this on paper, just so many ways. It's just like a one-sided battle. We'll even go with total rushing yards. We have over 1,000 rushing yards this season already. 1,000. Yeah, 1047, 1,047, or 1,047, however you want to put it. Texans only have a total of 647 rushing yards. Their best production in the running game comes from Dameon Pierce, their running back. And that's the best they got on the ground right there. Oh, and speaking of their offense, did any of you see the tweet from Brandon Cooks? So Brandon Cooks was not too happy they didn't get traded at the deadline. Tweeted a little bit of a cryptic message. So I wrote it down. So I copied it into my notes on my computer. So the tweet from Brandon Cooks was after the trade deadline: "Don't take a man's kindness for granted. Covered for the lies for too long. Those days are done. Cross the line with playing with my career." By Brandon Cooks. Yeah, he doesn't seem too happy with the Houston Texans now, does he? Hey, JC Sports, thank you for coming in. Right now, we're just sitting there giving a little overview about the Eagles-Texans matchup. Do that for a little bit. Then at the end, I'm going to give a short keys to victory. That was right. So thanks for coming in, JC. And as I was saying, you said that tweet right there about Brandon Cooks. Yeah, it don't sound like someone who's going to be staying with the Houston Texans much longer. And the fact they might have no choice but to deactivate him from the roster if his morale is really low in the locker room. Does that sound like a team that's trending upward at all? Does it? A team that pretty much put their head coach in a situation to fail, like they put David Culley in last year. Davis Mills, who's not showing signs of progressing as a quarterback. Top wide receiver wants out and is not afraid to let it be known on social media. Does this look like a team that's trending upward that poses any threat to the Eagles at all? Does it? Because it doesn't seem like it to me. So, the more we look into this, the more it seems evident that this should be a cakewalk win for the Philadelphia Eagles. And do I need to go further with anything I haven't discussed yet previewing this? Beside the fact that the Texans are struggling to win games against garbage competition. Beside the fact that the Eagles are undefeated. Beside the fact the Texans only have 3 takeaways this season on a soft schedule. Beside the fact this team's a complete mess. Beside the fact that the Eagles have 25 total touchdowns to the Houston Texans 11. Is there real? There's. I think the point's pretty clear that this should be a winnable game for the Eagles. Now, obviously, you never know. Sometimes upsets do happen, so it is possible. So I'm not going to go too hard in bashing the Houston Texans here. Decided to give a little overview on what's going on with them, their situation with Brandon Cooks. Give you an overview of their schedule and who they're losing to. But sometimes you never know in the football world. We shouldn't lose to the Texans here. I just don't see it happening. Like, my gut feelings tell me we're going to win this game. yeah, I know technically anything can happen, but I just got that gut feeling we're going to win this game. Even if somehow this game ends up being closer than it should be on paper, I still feel like Eagles are winning this game. Like, any of you watching this, have you ever once thought about throughout these last couple days, thought about it, thought, I don't know, you never know, this might be the time. Have you ever confidently thought that to yourself? Have you? And I'm sure most of you listening to this are thinking, no, I have not thought that. Because I haven't either. I have not confidently thought that this team is going to lose. Something must have really went wrong if that's going to happen. But let's move along a little bit, shall we? So I'm going to go through the injury report real quickly. So I'm pulling it up. So I'm going to read it off my computer right now off the Eagles website. It was posted yesterday, 4:28 p.m. from Sage Hurley. But actually, real quickly, I'm going to check to see if there's an updated one real quick. Hold on. So I'm just check, see if there's an updated injury report. Okay, so the closest one is actually, hold on. Closest one is actually from 20 hours ago. We'll get an updated one at the end of the day. But this, considering that it is a Thursday game, this should be accurate, though. So Tuesday, we got Jordan Davis and Joshua Scott did not practice with ankle injuries, which comes as no surprise at all. We figured those guys might be out. AK Eagle, thank you for coming in. Shout out to AK Eagle, fellow Eagles content creator and member of the Hardcore Sports Network, along with JC Sports Talk and the head of the Hardcore Sports Network, MK. So thank you for coming in. So let's look. And as I was saying, the Eagles injury report. And don't feel afraid to leave a comment. Don't feel afraid to cut me off at all while you're in the middle. So don't feel afraid to just come in, say hello. I'll get to your comment. I'm okay with stopping my comment briefly just to shout you out for coming into the stream. So don't be afraid of that. But yeah, so obviously Jordan Davis and Joshua Scott, we expected that right there. So the Houston Texans, we got defensive back Garland Arnold. The quad injury has not been practicing. Malik Collins, defensive lineman, has not been practicing with a chest injury. You got Nico Collins, wide receiver's not practicing with a groin injury. Linebacker Neville Haywood's not practicing with a hamstring. And then you got offensive line. You got Justin McCurry with a concussion. He's out. And you got defensive back Desmond King's limited. Brandon Cooks, obviously, he's holding out at this point. And he's not shy of showing that he wants out, like I just pointed to by reading the tweet. But the irony is I'm looking at these players on the list. Some of these players, I don't even know who they are. It's like, man, I'm realizing, like, really? I don't even know who some of these players are on the Texans. I mean, if Coach Dante sees this at all, no offense to you, man, but unless you're a Houston Texans fan, most of us can't even name half the players on the team. We can't even forget half. We can't even name 25% of the players unless you're a Houston Texans fan. I'm sorry, no disrespect to any Texans fans, but dude, it just occurred to me while I'm reading it off. So I'm just putting that out there because I'm sure a lot of you can't even name half their roster without looking it up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they're pretty banged up too, so they are pretty banged up, but you know what? Even injured or not, it doesn't change the fact that this is an obviously looking like an Eagles victory and an improvement to 8-0 right here. Nothing's going to be changing that right there. You just look, even from a statistical standpoint, it tells a big story. Even though stats don't always tell the story, but in this case, they're telling a pretty good story here. And for those of you that are tuning into the stream on my channel, because I got it both on the Hardcore Sports Network and the Nikki Stees channel. So there is a poll on the Nikki Stees channel. So if you want to hit that one up too, just to vote on the poll questions base the basic who will win tomorrow's game. So if you haven't done so, you can just also check this out on my channel just to vote on the poll. Right now, we don't have any votes right now, but so please get in there on my channel as well and get some votes on that poll because that features exclusive to the stream of the show on my channel, the poll. So if you're on the Hardcore Sports Network, you're not going to get to see it. So, yeah, I mean, just regardless of how you look at this matchup, I think Eagles, should be an easy win for the Eagles. I mean, this should be a blow. We blew out the Steelers, who were a struggling team last week, who have some better structure with Mike Tomlin as their head coach, but they're in rebuild mode, and we saw what we did to them. We crushed them. We're playing a team in the Houston Texans who's in a similar situation. So when we beat the Steelers 35-13, I'm thinking the Texans, there's a good possibility if all things work out right, we could score over 40 points for the first time this season. I'm serious about that. If all things go right, we can possibly score over 40 points, for the first time. So you could possibly talk in something like 42-16, 42, something along those lines. I mean, if the Texans, at best case for the Texans, I see us winning by, say, maybe like 35-20 at best for them. At best. But even then, though, I don't even see that happening because the Houston Texans haven't really played any good teams at all this year. When I look at their schedule, the best team they played thus far are the Chargers, and they gave up over 30 points to them. So I'm thinking, really, this could very well be like a 42-13, somewhere along those lines where the Eagles score over 40 points. There's a good possibility that happens here in this game. So I definitely bottom line is I'm picking the Eagles to win this game. And I'm sure you guys are doing the same thing too. So now I've gone over the injury report, kind of looked at and compared and contrast both teams a little bit. I mean, well, the last thing I want to say is, what's Davis Mills, who's been struggling? What's he going to do having to throw into coverage against Darius Slay, James Bradbury, C.J. Gardner-Johnson? What's he going to do? What's that O-line going to do with Hassan Reddick, Robert Quinn, Fletcher Cox, and company coming after him? What's he going to do there, huh? I mean, really? Yeah, so let's just get, let's get kind of to the end. Let's get to the keys to victory against the Texans. This is going to be a much shorter keys to victory than my usual weekly previews. The first one, the obvious, play disciplined football. Hit on all the X's and O's. Don't come into the game too cocky. Don't give up stupid penalties. Make sure you move the ball. See, another key is, obviously, move the ball effectively, you got to, pass the ball effectively, run the ball effectively, all that, pretty routine, simple to the point. Another key to victory, don't underestimate anybody, period. That's always going to be a key to victory, no matter who the opponent is, whether it be the Texans, the Patriots, which obviously we don't play them this year, but I'm just throwing out random teams as an example. It don't matter if you play in the Texans, the Commanders, the Jets, the Giants, the Ravens, the Steelers. It don't matter who in the NFL you're playing. Never take anyone for granted. So those are kind of my quick keys to victory right there. So this one was a bit shorter than expected. If you were expecting it to be a little bit longer, I apologize for that. But there really wasn't a whole lot to say about this game right here. Although there's one other thought is, don't use Eagles coming in on short week as, well, I guess I'm looking to say, if the Eagles aren't all the way there in their performance, don't use the short week as an excuse. Texans are also coming off a short week, so if we win, but it's not the most impressive performance, or we don't play as good as we should in the game, or whatever, don't use short week as an excuse. They had a short week too, okay? So yeah, let's not even think about going there, but yeah, obviously, like I said, we should blow out the Houston Texans. If you compare and contrast the two teams, Eagles are clearly the far better team with the overall talent around them, both on offense and defense. So this should be an easy win right there, and we should move on to 8-0. So I'll leave it at that. So to everyone that tuned in, thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this right there. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to both the Hardcore Sports Network and the Nikki Stees channel so you're not missing out. And I will be back later tonight on the Pick'ems at 8:30, exclusively on the Hardcore Sports Network, where we discuss the Week 9 matchups. So if you enjoyed this right here, you'll want to catch me later tonight on Pick'ems. So again, thank you to everyone that watched. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's Nikki Stees signing off, and I'll see you guys next time.